multilateral communication fractures, the space for miscalculation grows exponentially. No single power bloc benefits from a monitoring vacuum. Therefore, as a nation fundamentally committed to its NPT obligations, Liberia emphasizes two principles to bridge current divisions. First, transparency must outlast political disputes. Technical cooperation with the IAEA is a fundamental legal obligation under the NPT Safeguards Agreement. And this is distinct from the obligations from the political life cycle of Resolution 2231. We call on all relevant actors to facilitate full, unimpeded monitoring access to accurately reconstruct nuclear baselines. Second, we must seize the existing diplomatic window. Liberia welcomes recent mediations and the interim memorandum of understanding aimed at lowering regional tensions. Rather than leaning into rigid punitive measures that close diplomatic doors, this Council should universally support the current 60-day negotiation framework to secure a verified and permanent settlement. Mr. President, Resolution 2231 stands as historical proof that even the most complex security crises can be resolved through reciprocal good faith diplomacy. Liberia urges all major powers to exercise maximum restraint and unite behind a credible diplomatic pathway. Our common commitment to non-proliferation must remain absolute. I thank you for your kind attention.
Je remercie le
I
représentant
thank
du
the
Libéria
representative
pour
of
sa
Liberia
déclaration.
for
Je
his
donne à
statement.
présent
I
la
now give
parole
the floor
au
to the
représentant de la
representative
Somalie.
of Somalia.
Thank you, Mr. President. At the outset, we thank USU DiCarlo for her briefing. Somalia reaffirms its unwavering commitment to the non-proliferation of weapons of mass destruction and the maintenance of international peace and security under the United Nations Charter. We recognize the indispensable role that the IAEA verification and monitoring play in safeguarding enriched uranium and ensuring nuclear safety and global stability. Mr. President, as we gather here today, Somalia is deeply concerned by the continued attacks on the sovereign territories of the brotherly countries of Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, and Jordan, as well as the broader pattern of military escalations across the Middle East. These renewed attacks and escalations risk further destabilizing and carrying profound implications for regional security and the global economy. Somalia reiterates that all member states must respect their obligations under international law, including the Charter, which prohibit the threat of the use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state, or in any other manner inconsistent with the purpose of the United Nations Charter. In this regard, we call for respect for the sovereignty and the territorial integrity of these brotherly countries in the Gulf. We urge all parties to engage in dialogue and avoid any action that could escalate tensions or threaten regional peace and stability. We also reiterate our call for the protection of civilian infrastructure and emphasize that international law and the United Nations Charter must be upheld and respected. Mr. President, Somalia welcomes the June 17 signing of the Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding between the United States and Iran, facilitated by Pakistan and Qatar. We stress the importance of maintaining momentum toward a more permanent end to all hostilities, and we urge all parties to honor their commitment in good faith and recommit to a comprehensive non-proliferation dialogue to restore confidence. Furthermore, we reiterate our call for the establishment of a Middle East free of nuclear weapons and for all regional states to join the Treaty of Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons without exception. We also reiterate the importance of guaranteeing the freedom of navigation and in international waterways, including the Strait of Hormuz. We call all parties to refrain from actions that undermine maritime security and the free flow of commerce upon which the global economy depends. To conclude, Mr. President, the challenges before us require a collective response grounded in the principle of good neighborliness, genuine dialogue, mutual respect, and renewed commitment to multilateralism. Somalia remains committed to engaging constructively with all Council members toward a durable, negotiated resolution that prevents further escalation and addresses the legitimate concerns of all stakeholders. I thank you.
Je remercie le représentant
I
de la
thank the
Somalie
representative
pour
of
sa
Somalia
déclaration.
for his statement.
Je vais maintenant faire une
I will
déclaration
now deliver a statement
en ma qualité de représentant
in
de
my
la
capacity
République
as the
démocratique du
representative
Congo.
of the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
Distingués membres du Conseil, la
Distinguished
République
members of the
démocratique du
Council,
Congo remercie
the Democratic Republic of the
le
Congo
secrétaire
would like
général
to
pour
thank
la
the
présentation de
Secretary
son
General
21e rapport.
for
La République
the
démocratique du Congo
21st
demeure
report.
fermement
The
attachée au
DRC
principe
remains
du
unswervingly committed to the
multilatéralisme,
principles
au
of
respect du
multilateralism,
droit
the respect for
international,
international
et au
law,
rôle central des
and
Nations
the
Unies dans
central
la promotion
role
de la
of the
paix
United Nations
et de
in
la
promoting
sécurité
international
internationale.
peace and security.
Dans cet esprit, elle réaffirme son
In this
attachement
spirit, we would
aux
like to
efforts internationaux
reaffirm
visant
our
à
commitment
prévenir
to
la
international
prolifération
efforts seeking to
nucléaire,
prevent
ainsi qu'au
nuclear
règlement
proliferation,
pacifique des différends
as well
par
as
le
to
dialogue
the peaceful
et la
settlement of
diplomatie.
disputes
Ma délégation
by
prend
means of
note des
dialogue and
observations
diplomacy.
contenues dans le
My
rapport
delegation has
du
taken note
secrétaire
of
général,
the
notamment
remarks
celles
contained
relatives
in the
aux
SG's
récentes
report,
évaluations
in
de
particular
l'Agence
those
internationale
related
de
to
l'énergie
recent
atomique
assessments by
qui
the
mettent en évidence les
IAEA,
difficultés rencontrées
assessments which
dans
spotlight
l'exercice de ces
the
activités
difficulties the
de
agency has
vérification
encountered
et de
in
suivi.
exercising its verification and
Cette
monitoring
situation
activities.
souligne
This situation
l'importance de
underscores
préserver
the importance
les
of
conditions nécessaires à
preserving
l'accomplissement
the
effectif
conditions
du mandat
necessary
technique de l'agence
for the
dans
agency
l'intérêt
to
de la
discharge
transparence,
its
de la
technical
confiance
mandate
mutuelle
effectively
et
in the
du
interests
régime
of transparency,
international de
mutual trust,
non-prolifération.
and
La
in
République
furtherance of the
démocratique du
international
Congo
non-proliferation
réaffirme
regime. The
l'importance
Democratic
de
Republic of the
préserver
Congo would like to
l'indépendance,
reassert the
l'impartialité
importance
et
of
les
upholding the
capacités techniques
independence, impartiality,
l'AEAE.
and technical
Nous
capacity
soulignons
of
à
the
cet égard
IAEA. On
la
this note,
poursuite d'une
we'd like to
coopération
highlight
constructive avec l'agence
ongoing
afin de
positive cooperation
renforcer
with
la
the agency. This
confiance
is important
et
so as
favoriser une
to
solution
bolster
durable
trust
aux
and promote
préoccupations
a
relatives au
lasting
programme
solution
nucléaire iranien,
to the
conformément aux
concerns
obligations
surrounding the Iranian nuclear
internationales en
program,
vigueur
and this in
en
accordance
matière de
with applicable
non-prolifération.
international
La République
non-proliferation
démocratique du Congo
obligations.
prend acte des
The Democratic
divergences
Republic of the
positions
Congo has
exprimées
taken
par
note
les
of the
membres du
diverging
Conseil
positions
sur les
expressed
questions
by
dont il est
Council
saisi
members
aujourd'hui.
on
Sans préjuger des
the
différentes
issues
appréciations
on our
exprimées
agenda today.
à cet
Without
égard,
prejudice
ma
to the
délégation
different
demeure
assessments
que le
expressed
Conseil
on
de
this
sécurité doit
issue, my
pouvoir
delegation remains convinced
poursuivre
that the
ses
Security
travaux
Council should be able to
dans un esprit de
continue its work
responsabilité,
in this spirit
de
of
respect
responsibility,
mutuel et de dialogue
mutual respect,
constructif.
and constructive dialogue,
Préserver l'autorité,
upholding the
la
authority,
crédibilité ainsi
the
que le bon
credibility,
fonctionnement
as well as the
de cet
smooth
organe
functioning
demeure
of this
une
organ
responsabilité
is
qui nous
a
incombe à
responsibility
tous
that falls
collectivement.
to all of us
Ma délégation
collectively.
considère
My
que la
delegation is of the view
non-prolifération
that
nucléaire
nuclear
constitue
non-proliferation
l'un des piliers
is one of the
essentiels
key
de la
pillars
sécurité
of our collective
collective.
security.
Elle demeure également
Furthermore,
convaincue
we
qu'aucune
stand
solution
convinced
durable
that
ne pourra
no
être obtenue
lasting
sans un
solution
engagement
can be
résolu
found
en
without
faveur du
a
dialogue,
resolute
de la
commitment to
diplomatie et de la
dialogue,
négociation.
diplomacy, and negotiations.
C'est dans cet esprit
It is in
que
this
nous
spirit
encourageons
that
toutes les
we
initiatives
encourage all
susceptibles
initiatives
de favoriser
likely to
le
promote the
rétablissement de la
restoration
confiance
of
entre les
trust
parties
between the
et de créer
parties
les conditions
and
propices à la
creating
poursuite des efforts diplomatiques.
conducive conditions to
Loin de constituer
further
un
diplomatic
vœu
efforts.
pieux, cet
Far from
appel
being
traduit
wishful
l'attachement
thinking,
constant
this
de la
call
République démocratique du
encapsulates
Congo
the
au but des
unstinting
principes
commitment of the
de la
DRC
Charte
to the
des
principles
Nations
and
Unies,
purposes of the
ainsi que sa
United Nations
conviction
Charter, as
que
well
le
as our
dialogue qui
conviction
demeure
that
la seule voie
dialogue is the
susceptible
only
de conduire à un
possible
règlement
path
durable.
towards a lasting
Ma
settlement.
délégation demeure à cet égard
My delegation
préoccupée
is
par la dégradation du contexte
disquieted by
sécuritaire
the
régional
deterioration of the
et par
regional
les
security
conséquences
context,
que les
as well
récentes
as
hostilités continuent
by
d'avoir sur
the
les perspectives d'un
ramifications
règlement durable.
of the recent
Cette
hostilities,
évolution
the ramifications they're
rappelle
having on the
l'urgence de
prospects of a
privilégier
lasting
la retenue,
settlement.
d'éviter toute action
These
susceptible
developments recall the
d'alimenter
urgency of
davantage les
prioritizing
tensions
restraint and
et de
avoiding
préserver les
any
conditions
actions which might
nécessaires
further
à une
fuel tensions,
désescalade.
as well as of
La
upholding the
stabilité du
necessary
Moyen-Orient
preconditions
demeure
for
un
de-escalation.
enjeu majeur
Stability in the
pour la
Middle East
paix
remains
et
a
la
serious
sécurité
challenge
internationale
to
et
international
appelle
peace and
plus que
security.
jamais un engagement
Now, more than
collectif
ever,
en
it
faveur de la
requires us to
diplomatie.
make a collective commitment
conclure,
to diplomacy. By way
La
of
République
conclusion,
démocratique du Congo
the
réaffirme
Democratic
son
Republic of the Congo
attachement
would like to
aux
reiterate
objectifs de
its
non-prolifération
commitment
nucléaire
to the
règlement
objectives
pacifique des
of
différends
nuclear
et au
non-proliferation,
rôle
the
central du
peaceful
Conseil de
settlement of
sécurité
disputes, and the
dans le
central
maintien
role
de la paix
played by
et
the
de la
Security
sécurité
Council in the
internationale.
maintenance of international
Les
peace and
divergences
security.
d'appréciation qui
Differences
peuvent
of
exister
opinion which
entre les
member
membres du
states
Conseil ne devraient
may
jamais nous
harbor
détourner de notre
should never
responsabilité première,
distract us from our
telle que
primary
consacrée par
responsibility,
la Charte des
as
Nations Unies,
enshrined in the
à
United Nations
savoir
Charter, that
maintenir la
responsibility
paix
being
et la
the
sécurité
maintenance of international
internationale.
peace and security.
C'est dans cet
It is
esprit
in this
que la
spirit that the
République
Democratic
démocratique du
Republic of the
Congo
Congo
continuera
will continue
de soutenir toute
supporting
initiative
all initiatives
susceptible de
which might
favoriser
help
la
promote
désescalade,
a de-escalation,
le
dialogue,
ainsi que
as well
des
as
solutions négociées
lasting
durables
negotiated
et
solutions,
mutuellement acceptables.
solutions which are mutually
Je vais
acceptable.
maintenant reprendre
I resume
mes fonctions
my
de
function as
président
President
du
of the
Conseil.
Council.
Je donne maintenant la parole à son
I now
Excellence,
give the
Monsieur
floor to His
Stavros
Excellency, Mr.
Lambrinidis,
Stavros
chef
Lambrinidis,
de la
head of the delegation of the European Union to the
Union
United Nations.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, President.
I'm honored to address the Council today on behalf of the High Representative of the Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Kaja Kallas. I would also like to thank Secretary General Antonio Guterres and the Secretariat for their work related to the implementation of Resolution 2231. We take note of the 21st report of the Secretary General on the implementation of Resolution 2231 and thank USG DiCarlo for her briefing. The European Union welcomed the Memorandum of Understanding between the US and Iran and encourages continuation of negotiations, which would provide an opportunity for regional stability and the full restoration of freedom of navigation and safe transit through the Strait of Hormuz. This is essential for regional stability and the global economy. We again commend Pakistan, Qatar, and other regional partners for their mediation. We firmly believe that diplomacy is the only way to sustainably resolve all outstanding concerns, including on Iran's nuclear and ballistic programs and its destabilizing activities in the region. Parties should continue engaging in good faith in efforts to reach a sustainable agreement and can count on Europe to support diplomacy. The EU has decade-long engagement and expertise negotiating with Iran on the nuclear file and beyond, and is ready to use its sanctions-lifting leverage, provided Iran changes its behavior on the ground in a verifiable way. The High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy will continue to engage to ensure the exclusively peaceful nature of Iran's nuclear program in line with UNSCR resolutions 2231, 1929, and 1803. Colleagues, despite all diplomatic efforts, Iran's escalating nuclear trajectory over the last 6 years continues an urgent and profound nuclear proliferation concern in the region. As of June 25, Iran's stockpile of uranium enriched up to 60% comprised 440 kilograms. The International Atomic Energy Agency has been unable to further verify and for 2025 cannot draw any safeguards conclusions with respect to nuclear material previously declared due to Iran's persistent lack of cooperation. IAEA Director General has reported that the agency has lost continuity of knowledge regarding the previously declared inventories of nuclear material in Iran and its enrichment capacities, including low and highly enriched uranium. Iran must not ever be allowed to acquire a nuclear weapon. We call on Iran to return to full compliance with its legal obligations under the Treaty on Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons and its binding Comprehensive Safeguards Agreement. It is critical and urgent that Iran reestablishes full cooperation with IAEA to allow the monitoring of clear and verifiable steps that Iran should take in relation to negotiations on its nuclear program. The European Union fully supports the impartial role of the IAEA and its Director General in their critical work to uphold the implementation of safeguards, nuclear safety and security, and to provide clarity on Iran's nuclear program. The High Representative will remain engaged with all relevant parties, including Iran, and spare no effort to support political and diplomatic efforts to find a negotiated solution in all areas of concern and to promote conditions for greater regional cooperation. Thank you, Mr. President.
Je remercie Monsieur Lambrinidis.
I thank Mr.
pour sa
Lambrinidis
déclaration.
for his
Je donne à
statement.
présent la
I now
parole
give
au
the floor
représentant
to
de
the
l'Allemagne.
representative of Germany.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much,
for the
President.
possibility to address the Security Council today. I would like to thank Undersecretary General Di Carlo for her valuable briefing on the implementation of UN Security Council Resolution 2231. We greatly appreciate the Council's continued engagement on the critical issue of the Iranian nuclear program, which poses a threat to peace and security, which requires collective action. The JCPOA, endorsed by Resolution 2231 over 10 years ago, was a landmark agreement that successfully concluded years of negotiation. The recent Memorandum of Understanding between Iran and the United States was a diplomatic breakthrough, and we thank all those involved, including Pakistan, Qatar, and all other mediators on this achievement. We condemn Iran's recent attacks in the Strait of Hormuz and against regional states, and strongly encourage to continue the negotiations. In these uncertain times, it is essential to emphasize the following: a verifiable agreement that addresses the urgent concerns regarding Iran's nuclear activities is indispensable. Germany, together with its E3 partners, stands ready to support negotiations, as well as the implementation of future agreements with diplomatic and technical means. We are furthermore prepared to assess and support lifting nuclear-related sanctions, but only after concrete, verifiable steps by Iran on its nuclear program and Iran's return to full compliance with its legally binding obligations under the NPT and all relevant Security Council resolutions. Until we reach this decisive point, we must continue to ensure that established UN nations procedures, such as the 1737 Sanctions Committee, remain intact. And allow me, Mr. President, to highlight the following 2 points. First, we deeply regret that 2 members of the Security Council continue to block any progress regarding the implementation of the reinstated Security Council resolution, whether it be updating the sanction list or establishing a panel of experts. We consider and deeply regret that the United Nations as a whole and the Security Council in particular are undermined by this approach. Second, we reiterate that the essential role of the International Atomic Energy Agency and that Iran must resume full cooperation with the agency, allow its inspectors access, and disclose the location and quantity of all enriched nuclear material, in particular the stockpile of highly enriched uranium for which there is no civilian justification. Mr. President, it is in all of our interest that Iran does not acquire a nuclear weapon. Germany, with its E3 partners France and the United Kingdom, will continue to do its utmost to ensure a sustainable and verifiable solution that addresses all concerns regarding Iran's nuclear program. I thank you very much.
Je remercie le représentant de
I
l'Allemagne
thank
pour sa
the
déclaration.
representative of Germany for the statement.
Il n'y a plus
There are no
d'orateurs
more
ou
names
d'oratrices inscrits sur la
inscribed
liste.
on the list of speakers.
La séance est levée.
The meeting stands adjourned.